close enough to?
All right, you're recording.
I don't need to be in the
Yes,
Good
you do.
afternoon.
I can move.
It's 4:00 and I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees at 4 p.m. at the Water District offices on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. I'm Mary Sylvester, President. Roll call.
Andy Petty, City Council, Ward 3.
Robert Kavanaugh, treasurer. Not treasurer, trustee.
Yeah.
Casey Geiger, trustee.
Mike Broadbent, Assistant Superintendent.
Sid Hazelton, Superintendent.
Tanya Dunn, Staff on the Board.
Okay, we have quorum, though a smaller group. So let's begin with approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or changes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting, May 21, 2019. I'll second it.
Are there any corrections, changes, discussion about the minutes? All those in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Financial reports.
All right. Revenues, same old game. Water sales are down a bit from budget. And the jobbing income is down a bit. We have purchased materials and have not built those jobs out yet. That will catch up. Expenses are looking fairly favorable. We're a little over budget on maintenance of mains due to the water main breaks this summer. And the vehicles were a bit over on that. The two dump trucks both broke down. We currently have around we did have 770,000 cash on hand at the end of the month in August. Does anybody have any questions or?
Just one was on the UV treatment. Is that something that accruals make that overage? Or is that something that will continue, we'll have an overage on UV treatment?
I believe we're gonna have an overage on UV treatment power. We're spending a bit more on power.
Does that have something to do with the alum treatment's not in there?
No.
So where would the alum treatment show up as far as expenses there? Is there a line for that one, or is that a capital only? Yeah, for like we did the engineers' fees and stuff like that. I know the bonding would probably be on the capital, but
Yep, everything's getting charged to the
so
project.
we're actually bonding the engineering fees that we approved?
Anything that we've accrued for that project is, yes, it's gonna go to that. It's not gonna be budgeted separately, it's all gonna be under that
Under that
project,
bond.
yeah.
So we'll bond it.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly like us to expense it whenever we can and stuff, with something like that, but just point of opinion.
Any other questions? Okay, anything else you wanna do now, or you wanna wait till later?
We can go ahead and pass out the budget now, or we can wait until pass out the rate stuff. What do you wanna do?
I have it in the agenda for later, you wanna just do it then? Cause
Yep.
we're moving right along.
Yep.
Yeah, we can wait, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Let's just keep moving right along here in order. Approval of payment of the bills.
I move that we approve the payment of the bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I just have one question about Center Street Potvin.
Yeah, we had a utility pole while we were working on that property.
That water main break on Center Street by Dunkin' Donuts. We wound up, because of the busy traffic in the road, and we had 2 lanes shut down. We were staging behind the Potvin Mall, and he has a private telephone pole back there. that we bumped with the dump truck.
Oh.
So we had to replace it and put the lights back up, so we did that.
Okay.
A question that I have, because I thought we maybe were gonna need to speak about it today, but I don't see that we have a bill from Tainter, Skelton and Abbott to be paid in this month. Do we?
I'm not sure if you paid any bills from Skelton this
That's
month.
true, I didn't, nothing screamed out at me on that either.
Yeah, we're going to, but we don't seem to have it yet.
But I looked at everything.
I looked through to see if this was going to be the meeting in which we needed to review the invoice together, and I don't see that as part of payment of the bills, and I don't see that we, in fact, have received the bill to be paid or did not pay one in August. In which case, we'll table that discussion about the legal bill until the next meeting. Unless someone sees it, I think that we are ready.
I had one question though, as it relates to your report on repairs. What were the repairs to the dump trucks that we had?
Ooh, I'm not sure that I have the specifics, but both of them had some engine issues, might have been, I'm not sure if it was injectors, but there was some, I could go back, I have to research that to know
One
exactly.
was that
what
one
it
is just, we got last year, right, the Volvo?
Yeah, we have
Same
two.
problem with both.
Yeah, we have two of the larger dump trucks, and both of them had to be repaired in the shop.
I asked that question yesterday and it wasn't tires, that we know, it wasn't tires.
No, I had a feeling that was.
Something else.
I could get that for you,
Once
find out
there was
exactly what it was.
I don't wanna say the wrong part.
Oh, I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't, yeah,
On the
what-
throttle
some-
body, that seems to.
It just
Yeah.
looks like
Yeah.
something that was not an ongoing
It
problem.
was the electrical with the dump
Yeah.
thing, and it was draining the battery.
that was the one that, with the inspection one, was that the one that said inspection and, is that the one you're looking at? What page you
No,
on?
not on this,
I
I'm
think
just-
he's talking about in the financial report.
When
while
we do
we're
the
up on
financial
maintenance,
report, they
not on
talked
here.
about our vehicle maintenance is high because we had.
Oh, that was,
dump
it was
trucks.
back in June that it,
Yeah,
it
it was
has
back
been
in
up.
June, early July, they've been back in service, so the bills have already been paid and
Yeah.
processed, but it was
That's-
both
that's
trucks.
last month too.
And we sent it down to O'Connor, they tried to diagnose it, they thought they fixed it, got it back, thing wouldn't start. Had to tow it back down, diagnose it again, both of them did a couple of trips down there until finally they're correct now. So, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, yeah,
Especially
it is
with
not
the
cheap.
towing.
Okay, am I correct that we have a motion and a second to approve payment of the bills? Any more discussion?
No, I have questions and Tanya and Mike answered them yesterday.
Yay. All those in favor then? All right, approved. We're gonna click it here. All right, superintendent's reports.
Do you wanna start off with the monthly activity reports? We'll move on to a few projects from there.
Alright, activity reports, a lot of our activity on the water side, and why you see the water, the jobbing and payroll is up, so we're working on Poland Road. We are actually done putting pipe in the ground now, that is all in. We just have paving and cleanup and get everybody back to the normal services. I'm hoping the next couple of weeks we'll have that wrapped up, so that's great news. Fifth Street, that's been wrapped up for a while. We've had quite a few private main extensions this year. Mystic Way and Stetson Road are two big ones. Both of those are over 1,000 feet. Those were just activated in August.
Where's Mystic Way?
Mystic Way is off Minot Ave, and it runs back towards like where the National Guard is, back Industry Way.
So a new marijuana operation.
Yeah.
Mystique Way, yeah.
Hydrants, we did have a rash of damaged hydrants this year that we've been kind of chasing and fixing. You see a lot of activity under hydrants.
These by vehicles, vehicle damage?
Hit by vehicles, and just, we've been chasing them all summer, just.
I see they put one in the back of one of the utility trucks.
Yep. Oh, that's for flushing, that's for flushing.
It's for what?
For flushing.
For flushing, right.
Yeah. Services, nothing too out of the ordinary there. We did, with some of the work we've been doing on Poland Road, it has been affecting our system pressure, so we have been having a fair amount of pressure calls, people with high or low water pressure in the system, so I've been chasing a lot of those. Nothing else in the activity report really stands out. Station checks have been normal. Water quality calls are a shadow of what they were last year at this time. That's due to the good water quality this year. But things things are going well.
Under the station checks, it says Poland in booster.
So,
Is that-
so the inn has their own booster station. It's not we have a Poland booster station, which is on Route 26, which boosts the water into Poland, and then up at the tank, we have another booster station. We call that the Poland Inn booster station. That's theirs only, boost water into the inn.
So are we supplying water to the inn?
Yep.
From there?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a new thing we started a couple of years ago. They used to get it from that big tank, but now they get it from, directly
that
from our
booster
water
station.
system.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the, on the other activities,
Yeah.
on the last page,
Oh.
number 7, where was the graffiti?
Oh, out at North Auburn Road and Lake Shore Drive, there's a little park there where the store used to be. So it was a watershed item, but it was a bench, a porta potty, and a picnic table that were hit.
So we're paying police for patrol periodically,
They
right?
patrol found it, notified Erica notified me, we send staff out, clean it up, and send it to the Watershed Protection Commission.
Thank you.
That's it for activity report. I kinda covered the project update, but, you know, we are trugging through Poland Road. I issued some letters over to Dennison Street. We are gonna pick away, we have a stretch of main over there that we can abandon, but it still serves 8 customers. We have a brand new water main on the opposite side of the road, and we already took the time and ran new services to each property. We just need to go and hook them up. And then we're gonna be able to terminate about 1,000, just shy of 1,000 feet of this old cast iron main. So we are gonna be picking away at that, but that'll be small work compared to what we've been doing. A lot of the work is gonna be shifting over to the sewer department now with a pump station replacement, moving through the fall. So that's kind of the project update, but.
As Mike mentioned, the water quality right now is very good. Just about this time last year, you might recall, we did the copper sulfate treatment to the lake. It was September 11th last year. So just about this time, we were dealing with some really interesting water quality issues, enough so that we did that copper sulfate treatment. Looking at the turbidity numbers last year, they were up around 3. As you know, we trend that every day. Right now, the turbidity is at historic lows. It's averaging about a 0.4,
Really?
which is very, very good.
Now, how do you understand that?
Well, it's, I think a lot of that is due to, a couple of things. Number one was the alum treatment that we started in July.
The portion already completed
Right.
has helped.
We've done about a half of the lake's worth of alum treatment. That was designed to strip the phosphorus out of the water column.
Right.
Interestingly enough, we still monitor the lake continuously, and we haven't really seen the phosphorus numbers declining a whole lot, but it's hard to say, because we don't have data. There's no way to tell
Yeah.
what the phosphorus levels would have been had we not done
Can't do that,
the alum
yeah,
treatment.
right.
But, we have seen the lake is very, very clear by historic
Yeah.
standards for this time of year.
Love it.
But it might be, there's a number of things going on. It's also, if you remember last September, we had record heat in
That's right.
September. We had
Right.
days,
Awesome.
hot, humid days that were bordering around, the 90s. This September has been much more typical of September weather. It's been in the mid-60s, and some of the nights are in the low 40s. So that type of thing helps as well.
Excellent, well, that's nice.
So where do we take our water samples, just curiosity? I mean, we go out on a boat, and we take the water that
Yep.
comes out of the pipe first, or every day does somebody go out in a boat and take certain samples, or?
With the alum treatment, we are taking samples every day all over the distribution system. First customer, out at the chloramines facility, we're doing in-lake sampling. We've discontinued a lot of the stream and tributary sampling, because basically this time of year, there's no water flowing in a lot of those streams, so we're not doing a lot of that. But we do a comprehensive testing. We test like,
It's 11 locations every day for aluminum, another.
Yeah, so we have a boat, we go out
Yep.
offshore, and somebody goes
Yep.
out and gets these tests, whatever.
Designated stations, designated depths within the lake, we go down this many meters, take a sample here.
Okay.
speaking of the alum treatment, we've had a few meetings, and we're continuously, as we mentioned, testing the aluminum levels in the lake. They are going down. So we're actually having a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 to discuss exactly what we're going to do about continuing that alum treatment. I don't wanna preclude the meeting, but the conversation is that we are looking to start that up again and complete that project this fall. But we're gonna discuss it tomorrow and see what logistics we have in place to make it happen. The earliest we could start it up would be September 30th. The company that was doing that treatment, Solitude, they're currently down in Cape Cod doing the project down there, but they would be available to start here on September 30th. And after that meeting tomorrow, that's where we're going to really make the decision. It's gonna be a group decision, and we're gonna make that tomorrow to decide what to do.
Does cold weather impact that? I mean, last year we had a very hot September and a very cold November, so.
Well, they do say that you should not do that application if it's below 40 degrees, temperature wise, so I think we'll be okay there.
Yeah, good.
But it's still as effective as it's always been.
Sure.
Yeah,
Great.
even if it gets a little colder, it's not.
On
as
activity,
effective.
last year I asked about on Hampshire Street and the easterly side of the intersection with Union Street bypass.
Yep,
In the inside easterly lane near the center line, that sewer structure with the cover on top of it, around the outside of it, there's a gap around the outside that you're still gonna you need to dodge it, otherwise you go thump, thump, thump through it. It may only need to have asphalt around the ring on the top, I don't know, or it may need more,
it's still that way now?
yes.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
If, that'd be great.
Yep.
Anything more you want to report on?
I think that's it for,
Anybody have any other
projects.
questions for our superintendents? All right, moving on then to old business. Cost sharing. Jason had said while I was gone, that he would try to pick up compiling what others had done to work with the summary of what I had first drafted, and then of course he had a personal family emergency and has just returned back to Maine. Do you have enough copies there? So, what I had done before I left was take everything that I think we had gotten at the previous meeting and drafted and tweaked it from anything else I'd heard. So, and then we know that since then, Tiz had sent Jason some additional tweaks to this, but he hasn't had a chance to tell me what they are. I wanna recognize and honor that Casey has a strong opinion that there's nothing more to be done with this, and the opposite side is that Dan Bilodeau has a very strong belief that there's nothing to be done with it because he knows exactly that there is a problem and that we should immediately work on it. I believe that the responsible thing to do is to address the question that actually is embedded in the simple sentence that Andy put in, which is first determine if there's a problem or what the question is. And Tiz had a lengthy thing to go with that, and Jason had some thoughts about first put something together here that really looks at the data, the questions, and has some analysis. And I think that that's the way to go too. I think we're having a hard time getting a work group together on this, and so I have a proposal which I recognize I'm sharing with 4 people instead of the full board. But rather than delay on this any further to get an actual launch, I am offering that what I will do is actually work individually with each of the trustees who's willing to meet with me and start to do the kind of report preparation that I believe is what a responsible, respectful board does around complex strategic questions. And I'm certain that this kind of preparation would need to be before a board should actually vote on whether to move ahead with that conversation. And I also know that if there is going to be a conversation with Lewiston, you can't just walk in one day and say, okay, we're gonna sit down. You have to have done some homework to prepare for the conversation.
Can I ask,
You sure can.
what if Lewiston says, we're not interested in talking about this agreement at all?
I think that's a very good question.
That's the first thing we have to do though, as I said, whoever the principal to do the negotiating is, whether it be Sid and Mary, get together, whoever the principals are on the other side and say, listen, this is a concern we have. Now, I believe in integrity. I do believe that if the city of Lewiston will say, no, I want no part of it, we're done, that means they believe they got an advantage and they don't wanna talk about it. But if they're willing to at least sit down and talk and say, well, this is why we think it's fair and this is why we think it isn't, and negotiate, and then we can talk about it fine. If they refuse to, then this board has to decide, okay, do we wanna go further with any legal actions? No good to have a committee, no good to do the research, if both sides don't wanna come to the table. You're right, Casey. But that's gotta happen first. Now, I will call it an integrity issue if the city of Lewiston does not wanna at least look at it and say, if this is unfair, we wanna fix it too. They're not so, and it's not a lot of money, I know, but I go back to other interlocal agreements as well. If it's an unfair agreement and they're happy with it, then that says something about them, not us.
So
we need
I'm
to-
gonna just ask if you'll indulge me, since I'm willing to do all the work on
Yeah.
this. Is that before I'd be willing to even sit down with a longtime partner for that conversation, I don't feel adequately familiar.
We need to,
with
like you
the
said, get our research together and
And
understand.
I'm prepared to offer to do that. I'd like to meet with any of the trustees here who have, and Sid and Tanya, who have information that I would need to be familiar before I could even agree to setting up a meeting like that. I think we certainly don't wanna get too deep into it if there is no conversation. I, for one, am pretty interested in understanding also what the city is interested in doing with the many interlocal agreements that our city has with our partner across the river. But to begin with, and I am happy to be a work group of one, working with others who have information so that I would bring back a summary document that at least satisfies my own standards for a process to look at data and scenarios and say, let's roll it out from there. But I don't feel confident or comfortable going into a conversation from where I sit on the topic today. So if that's okay with everybody, then I would.
And I think that Jason and Dan both should be involved. I mean,
I'd love to talk with them about it.
at
They're
least
not
in the
here,
research,
but
because,
I will talk with them individually. I know Jason's work schedule is really tough. And he has often said to me that he really wants to help, but he cannot leave his office except for our 4 PM meeting until 5. So I often meet with him in Portland and just go down there, and he has, some time midday.
yeah.
And I wanna meet with Dan, I wanna meet with Casey, who knows a lot, I wanna meet with everyone in putting it together, but that helps me feel that at least collectively, even if we don't make a committee, that there's been some research into this, so that we're knowledgeable, and I'll say that I'm more knowledgeable than I am today. Otherwise, I would not feel that there's a reason for the meeting from where I sit. And if there is a conversation to be had, then we'll explore that. If there's not a conversation to be had, then we'll explore that. Does that satisfy everyone at this moment? And I would try to have, something ready to bring back to if it can't be the October meeting, no later than the November meeting, but I would try to do October. The only reason I would probably not be able to do it by the October meeting is that, like Jason's family situation, I have a 98-year-old mother who is fading away. And I may need to go back to Indiana to be with her once again, and I would need to just be called away for that. Otherwise, it is the benefit of being a person who is retired that I have more free time for a few things than I did a year ago, so.
I think that's a reasonable, thing.
Okay.
And then, but when we're talking about charge, I mean, like I said, the thing is to find out specifically, find those imbalances and what they actually mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna basically follow this document. Tiz outlined a number of things, we've really already got a lot of pieces. I wanna make sure I've understood carefully what everybody's questions are. I wanna do a little bit of a risk and benefit analysis and financial analysis.
But it's also, the charge should be looking at future potential, because the alum treatment woke us up to the fact that there's a capital expenditure that we pay 50% of. If for some reason, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, whatever, we're forced into filtration, does that mean that we also will pay 50% of building a filtration plant?
Future projects.
And that will be significant money if it's 50-50, and that's the way it is when it comes to
Okay.
the filtration or the clean water part of it. So going in, we would know that, okay, if that ever happens, we're not gonna have to be responsible for 50% of all the building and expenses, or
Okay.
something like that.
Well, I will add that into the charge.
Again, I look back at the 911 thing, whoever thought $7 million upgrade, and guess what? Auburn's paying 50% of it,
Right.
because of an agreement that was made 25 years ago, not thinking that something like this would happen.
So I'm gonna add that as a question looking ahead, and so, while this is not the tidiest document, I will add to the bottom as an amendment to it, looking ahead to future projects, cost sharing agreements.
Correct. That was mostly what I'm concerned about.
I
because
hear
the
you.
current money is not a lot, and, yeah, the alum treatment was some, but I'm really worried about the future.
I got it. So I'm gonna do that too, and I'm wondering, do we need a motion on this, or should I just get started?
No, I think that unless we wanna vote on,
This is what basically would be my work plan, and I will work with every trustee with whom I can get in touch who wants to talk with me about each item. And so it's not requiring a lot of group meetings.
I don't think you need a motion to
Okay.
do that.
I just wanna make sure
You-
we have 4 people, but
You have consensus of 4.
I'm a
Yep.
believer in consensus. That's what I'm gonna do. You know my process. I will work with everyone, who is willing to meet with me, and I will have it ready by October if I can, and November at the latest.
And I will say hello to South Bend, Indiana on the weekend of the 5th.
Oh, I might see you. I could be in the game. Who are they playing?
Bowling Green.
Ooh. Well, this isn't really official trustee business. All I can say is that anytime there's a Notre Dame home game, it tells me that I'm gonna have like this gigantic headache, cause nothing like being in a Big Ten college town to have it all get gridlocked. Okay, moving right ahead here, October 9th, we had voted at our last meeting to have our workshop on filtration studies, so all of us as trustees and any member of the public who wishes to come can truly understand the studies that have already been done. And I appreciate that Sid is willing and able to do this presentation. There is apparently, of course, we've seen a 50-page report, and I will be among those who say that I probably haven't memorized the 50-page report, and I am looking forward to the expertise of someone who has worked with these studies, who can talk us through what is known from the existing studies. And I think every single trustee has an opportunity and a responsibility as the community's conversation about filtration moves ahead to at least know what the existing studies say. So we voted on October 9th. I wonder about whether we want to do it in this building, or would we want to be in a somewhat larger room? And an option, if we want to be in a larger room, could be the community room at the public library, which is a nice room and a friendly place.
Yeah, that sounds good, local. Also, there's the senior center in Pettingill Park.
Yeah, well, it's under construction.
Oh, it's under construction now? Okay.
I'm not sure.
I
when
thought all
it's
they're doing
ready
is a
right
water
now.
line.
It's still in there. No, they're rebuilding it, so.
Okay, so that's not, but that could be a future,
It could
I like that.
potential
I
location.
like community locations in addition to here. I mean, for our meetings, of course, it helps people understand this is where we're located. But a community center sometimes has opportunities for other people to be more comfortable coming in.
Is that the Penobscot room?
I
Down
can't
in
remember
the
the name
basement?
of it. It's in the lower level
Yeah,
of
lower
the
level.
library. And it's it's a common place for people.
We used it once before.
Oh, and I know the Watershed Protection Commission. does that, and they have technology, right?
They do.
So you could do.
You're talking the library or?
Yeah, the
Yes, they
library.
do, yep.
Would people be agreeable to, and I think Jason Paulina had asked, could we do it at 6:30, because he can't get home from work till 6:30. Does that satisfy?
But there are also for members of the public that if they did wanna come, they
After
could have
work.
time to get home from work or have supper and get over there. 6 would be better, but 6:30 works.
Well, I wanna respect that Jason really doesn't feel like he could get here and
Right.
6:30 and
Yeah,
as
so-
a
so
trustee,
we-
and he probably as a newer trustee maybe doesn't know those reports as much as some of those who've been.
So is this gonna be just a presentation of what Sid's already made before to other?
Well, I guess that's something we can talk about. I've got a ton of stuff, ton of history, and I've presented quite often on filtration, what it is, what it costs, what it means. I guess it depends on what people kinda wanna see. I mean, I did that report, and I did make a presentation to the city council after that report. It was done in March, I believe, so I assume I take a lot of stuff out of that type of, presentation I made, but if there's other things people wanna hear besides that, I can certainly.
And people might wanna ask questions, I mean, and that, you know, some people believe that there are some choices that we haven't yet looked at, that are options with
Yep.
some new technologies, we won't necessarily be able to answer those that night, but we can at least take a list of questions that other people have.
I think it might help also to kind of expand on more than filtration, going back to, you know, why we are where we're at today. You know, why do we do the Allen treatment? What did we consider in lieu of that? Why didn't we just decide to filter the water at that time? And we looked at a number of different things. We looked at putting an aeration system in the lake. We looked at actually dredging the lake. What we ultimately decided to with an Allen treatment, but all of those things were in lieu of just going to a treatment system. So I could really give a comprehensive view as to why we're.
And I think the more information from,
Right.
that you have, that you can help us as trustees know, as well as members of the public understand from our existing studies, and, you know, with the documentation behind, so, you know, we can say, well, maybe there are other engineering perspectives than Wright Pierce, is it Pierce, right?
Right, Pierce.
Right,
Right,
Pierce.
Pierce, and, well,
But
as
they
part of
are-
that study, I also got, Weston Sampson also did the study for us.
That they're
as well.
well-known
Yeah.
professional firms in our
Well,
state.
yeah, and my only concern to be out front is I just don't wanna have, I don't mean scare tactics, but what it could end up being is explaining everything that's gonna happen is $40 million, whatever it is, and it's impossible, we can't do it. Type of discussion.
Well,
In the
I'm
public
just,
eye, that's
Right.
just saying, here it is, and it's impossible to do, we gotta avoid it at all costs, it can never happen because of this, and this. And
Well, I
I
guess
thought the
I
whole
wasn't
idea of this
thinking-
was looking at
I was just.
options, are there options? No, we need to understand what's been presented before.
I'd like to know first what the studies that have been done say, before we don't even know whether they do. Are there other options that we don't know the answer to?
Not according to the report's pretty clear that it's very, very expensive and not something we ever wanna do.
So have we studied all the other options? Are there
I don't
others?
know,
Well-
is there grant money available, is there federal programs, is there, other options? I don't know,
I
that's
guess
what I was
that's the
hoping
question.
that.
I guess we could take wherever the conversation goes. I mean, not only the capital expense of putting that plant in, one of the real kickers of that is it would increase our annual budget by up to $2 million a year, just to maintain the plant,
Right.
every year,
2 million for Lewis and Ann Arbor combined.
total.
Yeah,
Total, so.
Yeah.
So we have that.
Every
What
year,
does that
each
mean?
year and every year, it would increase our operating budget, Auburn's by about $1 million.
$1 million a year, that's a lot of money.
Just a-
Well, I wanna
It's-
recognize that there, again, I'm sort of back to, is there a fundamental understanding of big studies we've already paid for in the community? Are there other things we don't know yet that are valid questions that we haven't studied yet? And how can we as trustees make a plan around next studies if we don't know for sure what has been studied, and make a list of the questions that are to be studied next? I don't think this is a time to make categorical statements about what's going to happen next or what isn't going to happen next.
Right.
This is really just to tell us, as trustees and the community, whomever would be interested in coming, what has been told to us by the studies already conducted.
And I understand having the meeting, but if it's gonna be a publicly announced, come to the library and hear about filtration.
The existing study, what the
Yeah,
existing studies.
people might not understand that this is just research on the part of the water district trustees, rather than a presentation of what filtration means.
Well, we have to be clear what this presentation is, so let's,
What are we titling this?
Yeah. See, when you look at also,
If
our
you're gonna
water
announce
rates
this,
are
what are you gonna
extremely
call it?
low compared to other parts of the state.
Right. Well,
pardon?
we're not gonna call this thing filtration studies, because we're not,
That's pretty too boring.
well, it's.
I guess what are we looking to accomplish?
Right.
Well, I know that we wanted to regale the board, so they understood what has been done in the past.
Yeah, I
Before we
mean-
move forward, but now we're turning it into a public meeting, which they're all public anyway, but if we
Yeah, I mean,
announce it,
so then we can have it here.
now we're gonna have the public involved, and now they have to understand, this
Right.
is really a trustees meeting, it's just being held in a different
Exactly,
place.
exactly, so
And-
maybe we just have it here. I mean, I only view it as an opportunity for the trustees.
Absolutely, and I
To
think we should,
learn
because I haven't had
exactly.
a full presentation, I mean, you've had the brief presentation we've had
The
as
one
a
at
council,
council
but
was brief, yeah.
I haven't had the full presentation either,
Right.
but still, the idea is looking forward, what are options, now that we know what we do
Right.
know, what else, what is it we
That's the
don't
next,
know?
that's the next conversation.
Right,
Let me ask you this, would it make more sense to have a presentation right here for the board of trustees, see how it goes, see what questions come
Yes.
out of it, and then decide from that, do we wanna take this public, or do we
I
wanna?
think that's
I would
wanna
be a
invite
better,
more
I think that
out?
would be a better.
Because unfortunately, you know, I'm hearing, and I know there is not consensus around this table.
No, consensus to do it, I'm just a
Or,
bit
or a
nervous.
consensus as to what filtration means and should we do
Correct.
it, is it something we should not do, should
Right.
do?
Right.
Well,
There's
I
not
don't
consensus.
view
I don't- I don't think- I don't think
Well, the thing is, do
We
we,
don't have a unified
do we
message
need
here.
to do it? That's another thing.
Well, then let's.
Right now, there's no need.
My only thinking about putting it someplace else is that if any member of the public wants to be part of our public meeting, that there aren't many chairs here.
Right.
But I'm not trying to make this a big showcase, otherwise we make a big presentation, so let's have it here. And let's have it here at 6:30,
Calling it as a workshop, and then.
and it's a workshop.
Just advertise it like we do a regular meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And then you can put the subject matter being, presentation on past studies done
Mhm.
regarding
That's the point.
filtration,
That's what
Actually,
this.
I wouldn't
we
call
can
it
be
filtration,
educated.
I'd call it water quality.
water quality.
Current and past efforts
But
for water quality.
Bob, you say that we don't, you know,
Because filtration,
Filtration is one of a dozen things we've considered
Right.
over the years.
And not necessarily the need, the need is not there now, but if there is a need in the future, then these are our options. In the meantime, we need to keep the water, Lake Auburn, as clean as possible.
So,
regardless of that fact, but also, like I said, last summer, people visiting Auburn had an experience. The water sucks in Lewiston and Auburn.
Well, that was
about
only
2
for a month and a half, there was,
That's visitors.
And-
and we know what the problem was with it, we know what the problem was.
But the
So-
visitor didn't.
So-
But it cleaned itself up, it was a short-term
yeah,
thing.
but you're missing the point here. I mean, if you're trying to sell a house in this community last summer during the period when the water wasn't good and you were coming from out of town, you might have been hesitant to, you would not, you would say that they don't have good water quality here. Because you don't live here, you're just visiting, or if you're at the hotel.
and I asked a restaurant owner out at the airport, did you ever notice any water odor last fall? He said, no, not at all.
Yeah, not everybody did either,
Well,
really.
so it's not like
It
it
was
sucked.
situational.
It's just,
Yes.
some people were sensitive to it, but he says, I served an awful lot of water at that restaurant, and he says, I didn't notice anything, or nobody complained to him, so I don't think it was universally a big,
So let me
big a
just,
deal.
And filtration might not have been the option for that.
Alright, hold on,
Sure.
let's not let this get too far out of hand. I wanna say that I think that the beginning for us as trustees is to understand the studies that have been done.
Right, so that's what that would be about.
And that's what the purpose of this workshop is existing studies.
Yep.
Mhm.
They've been invested in, they we should learn what's in them, and then we can say what else hasn't been studied, but we can't do that until.
And on the workshop, I'd like to have filtration studies and then
And
maybe
water quality.
possible next steps, next research steps,
And next steps.
next research steps. I'm not saying next.
Research steps.
I mean,
Next
what else do we,
research steps.
after we've had the presentation, then an
So
item on the agenda would
filtration
be.
and water quality studies, because I wanna
Yep.
have a focus on filtration and other water quality studies and next research steps.
Whatever the next research
And-
might be, is there something
exactly.
else out there?
And at 6:30 here on October 9th. And we will notify the public as per usual, and if you know people who you think would be interested, please make sure that you extend an invitation to them.
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is the studies that have been done, period. And I'm just gonna move on in 2 seconds, but I wanna reference this as being related to, as you know, though I had no idea what I was being asked to be part of, I was not only on the first Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee for Agriculture, working with the consultant from Crossroads, but within 15 minutes had been elected chair of that committee, one of the interesting challenges. And the very first thing we did, and the consultant did, was read every study that had already been done. And you can't really begin with a question till you read everything that's already been done. Then you go from there.
Right.
What else do we need to learn? But you start with what's been done. Okay, thank you, Phil. Superintendent's job description, the update on progress.
Yes, I have, in accordance with the previous meetings we had, I did reach out to several other water utilities in the state, asked them for copies of their superintendent job description. I did hear back from, 4 or 5 of them, Bangor, Kennebec, Portland, Sanford, Brunswick. So I got copies of all their job descriptions, went through them, forwarded those to, there might have been a little confusion on who was looking into this. I know that Casey was part of that charge, and I
Yeah.
thought,
And I thought Bob was gonna be part of it. If
Well,
wanted.
I asked you to let me know when there was a meeting and
Yeah, yeah.
I'd
And then I was-
attend.
And then I wasn't there.
I did work with Casey,
Good.
put that information back and forth. I took up my existing job description, redlined it, looked at it, and I've got the results of that here, I'll pass around. So this is the,
Your recommendation, having worked with Casey on what your job description updated would look like. Excellent.
Thank you.
I don't wanna spend too much time on this because we don't have a full board here, but would you just walk us through anything that you wanna highlight for us, and then we can review it and look at it in greater detail?
Well, that first sentence is pretty, that first one covers a lot, doesn't it?
well, you know, my favorite thing that I saw out of this whole thing was when I polled all the other superintendents what their job description was, the superintendent from Brunswick wrote back, do everything, be responsible for everything, and be good at most of it.
That's about what it says here, that's first line, first
That's what
bullet
he
point.
said. So I wanted to quote
Yes.
that, I thought that was pretty good.
That is good.
But
Slowly at the top.
what this, I guess what this is, back in 2013, when we did our last, salary survey, there was, all of the positions were updated as well, so February 13th was the last time this was done, so using that as a base document, some of the things that had changed since that time, there was no mention of this position serving as clerk of the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission, so that's been added in this.
Yep.
There was some talk in there about overseeing the care and management of the district-owned forest land by the registered forester. I didn't put that in there as a specific job duty, that falls under the watershed manager, who is a position that they oversee as part of this. Under supervisory responsibility on the second page, I updated some of those positions that weren't actually there at the time. There was mention of a lead clerk. We don't really have a lead clerk. We have an assistant superintendent that was added in there, watershed manager, finance director, those positions were all added into that. But other than that, I thought it was pretty comprehensive, so hopefully we captured everything in there.
Thanks for working on it, Casey and Sid. Well, we are a quorum, and we could vote to approve. Out of respect
think-
for
I
three
think-
missing.
I think it's just fine the way it was revised, personally.
I mean, looking it over, I see it's pretty much boilerplate stuff.
Then we could entertain a
I mean,
motion.
anything can be added or subtracted to the board afterwards, too. We can approve it tonight, and then if one of the three that aren't here tonight look at it and say, well, geez, we should have added this, well, we can amend it. I
That's
understand, right?
Yeah, that's
At any time.
I
Right.
make a motion, we approve this job description for Sid.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, everyone. What this allows us to do, and which I think Bob had also said he'd be happy to work on with us, is to get the event. We're now ready for step 2. Oh my God. Of the legally approved process, and which our lawyer said we needed to follow. And that is that we're going to prepare an evaluation form that links every one of these item bullets
Yep.
to a form that is evaluated between something like 1 to 5, with all points in between. And we create a form that does that. And Bob I bumped into recently, and he had some interesting ideas on that. So maybe Bob, would you and Casey kind of put your heads together and think that one through?
That work for you?
Sure.
It's probably, and Sid, I mean, he should have input.
Yep.
And then we
Will
will
do.
get that form, and by the October meeting, and we'll work on, maybe some people here can help figure out how to get it online too, so that by the October meeting, we can provide every trustee with information on the paper evaluation form and the online, and we can start to get this process moved ahead.
Now, the only thing about the online, I found out, is that you have to have somebody administer the online SurveyMonkey, who may not be privy to executive sessions. So it created a little bit of an issue with the
I
city.
mean, they can't be in the.
They have to be sworn to secrecy about what they see, but they have to administer the SurveyMonkey website, so they actually can see
Well, I can do that.
responses.
I've done a lot of survey monkeys.
Okay, well then, if we have somebody who's already privy, then we're good with that, but,
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bunch of survey monkeys.
but that's what, just make sure that whoever's doing SurveyMonkey, they will have access to everything, so they need to be either on the board or sworn to secrecy or something.
I can do survey
Cool.
monkey. All right, so I got back a note that I will do survey monkey. So we're gonna do, at the October meeting, there's gonna be an evaluation form to distribute and a survey monkey.
And once we approve the form, that you can
That
put the
could be
form
enough
on SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
I don't know about, we'll talk after.
So, at the October meeting, we're going to approve the form, and if it's approved, we're going to hand it out at the same meeting. And the way it needs to be done is pretty straightforward, and then Bob had a section with comments, which is also what.
But now let me ask you one thing on this too. I know he talked about the job description and the evaluation.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things in a job description that we don't have privy to.
Like,
Well, for instance, when it talks about, human resource function or, the billing system,
how do we know
how
it's
do we
happening?
know that everything is going smoothly unless we hear a complaint? I mean,
Well-
we don't micromanage and we don't ever want to. So some questions may not be necessary, might be having to do with managing their, question that would say
Well-
managing their financial responsibility.
That
of the
is the
district.
reason that our lawyers said that selected key employees are gonna do one of these confidentially as well. So that I might not know how, because in fact, Jim Pross asked us, how would you know if something wasn't going well? And I said, well, let's take the billing system. If the billing system wasn't working, we would start to see receivables going up and there would be complaints. And he said, that's great, but that's not enough. You need to have selected key employees need to do one of these confidential forms too, so that if the person responsible for billing says, you know, and it's not working right and I can't get anybody to fix it, that comes through the confidential evaluation form and the board finds out about it that way.
So he's saying that we need to have employees,
Yeah, that's section 2. Additionally, key employees will be asked to complete the superintendent's annual review form. That's what he said both when he was here, and that's what he said in the meeting with Sid.
well, so in the city, we were talking about evaluation and having city employees involved in our evaluation. And we found that became I don't mean to say this is this case, but a favoritism thing. A manager that's well-liked is gonna be roses all the time. A manager that somehow, they're doing their job and they get tough, somebody's gonna, use the evaluation as a way to get back. So we didn't listen to it. Now, maybe they do have an employee evaluation internally, but it wasn't what council paid attention to because we couldn't be sure of the results. I don't know why he's saying that we absolutely have to have for our deliberations.
He only suggested it as a way to make sure that the board is aware of things that we wouldn't normally, otherwise, if you take the billing system, if we aren't billing properly, our receivables are gonna go up. And our revenue is going to.
Well, we'll see the results of that, right, because we're seeing our.
Yeah, that's
monthly
right, so we
reports,
see it in macro and
Right.
executive level.
Okay, well, let's just see what the evaluation form looks like, and then we can, because I guess a lot of times it's also gotta be in the form saying, no knowledge of it or something,
Yeah.
doing a good job, doing a fair job, doing a great job, whatever, or
no.
didn't experience it, or no experience, or no,
Yeah, put in don't know kind of category.
yeah, so that would be, all right, very good.
All right, so we will, if you guys create that form, we will approve it in October. And, we will also, so that's gonna be Bob and Casey.
Very good. It's good to get to that point.
Yeah, we gotta move this along, and I'm gonna do a survey, monkey, and then we will get it started. All right. All right, new business, budget preparation timeline.
How's the
Alright.
budget?
First draft of the 2020 budget. We don't have a whole lot of new numbers. For healthcare, we got a rough guesstimate from Cross Insurance of 11% increase. What else are we using for? We are also using, the projected 2019 are, solid through August, and we did estimates for the remaining 3 months. We assumed 0 increase in, sales. So that is flat, and
Can you explain why payroll is so high when we budgeted 836, you're projecting 776, but you're budgeting 904?
yeah.
How do you get to that number?
That number includes a 2.5% COLA, and that number includes, step increases as well, 2% step increases. That is everybody's base
Yep.
pay.
Well, but, add, how much is it, 900, divided by even last year's budget?
Mm-hmm.
That's more than 4 or 5%.
We will need to go back and, this is the first flush, we do need to go
Okay.
back and look at all these numbers. That one, if you,
If you take projected 776 and you add 10%, you don't get the 900.
Yeah,
So, just doesn't, as a first read, that jumps out at me like a red flag.
yep,
So let me understand, we had talked about it last night, I mean, you all talked about it, the sewer people did, Casey and I just listened. So there's gonna be a 2% step increase plus a 2.5% COLA?
the COLA's a placeholder, we don't,
We have
But
to
there-
decide that.
Yeah, but.
But they're not for all employees. There's a 2% bump, but not for all employees, but it's a significant number will be receiving.
The step, you mean?
The step.
Everyone's not gonna get the step.
Right, cause they're already at a higher level or whatever.
right,
They will get the
But some, a lot of
2.5%. They will
employees
get
will
the
get a 2
2.5%.
plus a 2.5.
Yeah, I was
we
meaning who's
vote
gonna
for the
get,
2.5.
if we do, yeah, I just wanted to understand. I'd be curious when we look at this next time, how many will qualify for the step? What percentage? You know, if there's a significant number getting 2% in the step increase anyway, it's just we don't wanna get out of whack, but what the step is trying to keep us competitive. Plus the 2.5% is trying to keep us from falling behind other districts.
right.
It's just, you know, how many people are gonna get a 4.5% raise, gets to be one of the questions.
Well, the sewer district was up significantly too,
Yeah. they both
salary
are.
and
Right.
benefits. So it wasn't a shifting of people, moving people from one department to the next, cause that happens sometimes. You get an increase in payroll because you move people from sewer district to water and vice versa.
It's almost like you included the, on payroll with the 11% health increase.
That's what I was gonna ask about
Because-
next, go ahead.
Under employee benefits, you don't have an 11% increase in that.
Yeah, it's decreased rather than
Yeah.
increasing.
the employee benefits, actually, we have new staff, and they have different healthcare plans. We have 4 people who dropped a family plan,
Okay.
well,
All right,
they're
okay,
not.
just,
Yeah, if you look at that, you'll see that, that one kinda jumps out as well, you know. We're assuming 11% increase in health insurance, however, if you look at that number, that didn't go up
Because
all
we
that
had more
much.
people who didn't
And we're a
get it.
small enough department that actually shifting, as Tanya mentioned, we have 4 or 5 employees
New
who,
employees who don't have the family plan, that's an impact.
yeah, that's a significant impact on that. But on the payroll, that is
Yeah.
something we need to itemize and hone
okay,
in on.
all right.
Okay, now, we spoke last night, and so, after sewer, some of us stayed and talked a little bit about a budget timeline, so that we aren't up against this at an 11th hour of trying to work with the 2 boards. So what some of us suggested was that there would be in November, on November 6th, a joint budget workshop between sewer and water. That's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. And on November 12th, which is a Tuesday, a joint budget workshop. And that gives us 2 joint budget workshops. And we can, as individual boards, look at the next iteration of the budget at our next regular business meeting on the 16th of October. But then go into joint workshops with the 2 boards on the 6th of November and the 12th of November. And then we have our regular November 20th water district meeting. And presumably, we're gonna be so well in hand with this thing that we're not gonna be slammed too much, but we penciled in the idea of a final meeting if we need it in early December. If we need it, but we hope not, because the way the holidays fall, we would try to get as much of this budget done before Thanksgiving if we could, prior to, whenever it is we schedule our December regular trustees meeting, because of how Christmas falls on a Wednesday. So that was the thinking, and not let it go too late so that we're up against the clock. so it's a lot of meetings. But if that works for people,
You may not need both of them.
and we might not, we just need to make,
Just make sure we have a placeholder for it.
what? And, but then if we could be done with this budget before Thanksgiving, or else just by our December meeting, it's just wrapping it up because we've agreed on things like the raises and the health insurance. Does that work for everybody? And the, person who was serving as the acting, president last night in the chair role in Heidi's absence agreed. So although the other sewer trustees don't know about this, so if we agree, the idea was that Sid would notify all of the trustees of these dates, so we can secure it on everybody's calendars. Excellent. All right, we are moving along. Rate increase proposal coming up.
Right, what we're passing out now is, as we mentioned the last few months, we are looking to give a few different scenarios to you for, what to do moving forward on our,
Sidewalk.
oh, okay. Tanya and I, had a conversation with the, two people at the Public Utilities Commission, last week on what our plans were tentatively moving ahead. There's a couple of ways to do things. The last time we had a rate increase was back in March of 2017. At that time, we did a capital reserve account, and we also needed to raise revenue from the loss of Cascades at that time. So, even when we did that rate increase back then, I was going back to that, presentation we made, and there was, even at that time, conversation about a rate increase just about this time to continue that, moving forward. What I've got here in front of you are 3 different scenarios for raising revenue. One of them is to maintain our current operations to get up to 100 days of operating cash on hand. That's the line item there at current. 1.5 miles of pipe is what we're funded for putting in the ground now. That would be a revenue increase of 10.8%. Once you factor in the hydrant charges that would go to the city, the effect on metered customers would be an 8.46% rate increase. If we were to increase our mileage from 1.5 miles to 2 miles per year, you can see that the revenue increase we need to get 16% more revenue than we're currently getting. Once you factor in fire charges, that would be a 13.6% rate increase for customers. If we were to up that to 3 miles per year, you can see that really accelerates the rate increase. It would be up to almost 31% revenue increase, which would equate to a 28 and almost a little over 28% rate increase for customers. So one thing we need to do, tomorrow, Greg is coming in, Tanya and Greg are going to meet, and depending on what the appetite is here, we're going to, again, get back to the drawing board and find out the best way to make that happen. There are a couple of things you can do. One thing that we have pretty much ruled out, and we've talked about this in the past, there is an infrastructure surcharge. Some water districts have done that. If you issue a large bond, and then use that for putting in infrastructure, you can claim the depreciation on that investment over time, and you can raise the rates incrementally to cover that depreciation cost. That's not gonna work for us because we don't have a big bonded debt currently. As a matter of fact, the last on our bond schedule, we've got a fairly large bond falling off in 2022, at the tune of almost $270,000, which is really gonna help us out a lot. So once we get back again with a Public Utilities Commission, I think we're going to try to upgrade our existing capital reserve account and see if that is an option for moving ahead. I guess one conversation to have is whether we do want to raise rates, whether we want to bond the money to accomplish this goal. But I guess what we're looking at here is the overall revenue we're going to need and the appetite for any type of rate increase to accomplish that.
Looking at this, I'm sure that I wanna go for the 2 miles of pipe, and I wanna not bond it. I wanna take it out of current revenues, and because when you bond it, all you do is kick the can down the road to the next year. You take the bond out, then all of a sudden you got interest payments you gotta pay. What have you accomplished? If you can just take it out of current revenues, I think you're far better off.
Can we see a possibility, I guess it's probably too late if we have to decide tonight, what the difference is?
You don't have to
Well, you don't have to
anything
decide,
tonight.
you don't have to decide tonight.
One of the things I'm looking at is consistency. So rate increases more regularly and 2% here, 2% there, or like this way every 2-3 years, 13%, another 13. Whenever you tell the public 13% increase, and last time we told them it was because infrastructure. And now we're telling them again, it's because we have to be able to replace infrastructure. And then 2 years after that, it's another 13%. And then on it goes. Or is it more palatable to be, if we can, more regular increases that are smaller? But the bonding is what we pay for, we pay the interest. I would pay interest on it. But again, I think, I'm looking at
Like
our.
every year 2% or something.
Well, and the other question is, can we do it any faster? If we can, if there's no advantage as far as getting pipe fixed faster, it does no difference except in the public eye, then it gets, I'm not gonna say one or the other, but I just think that it's overall better if we can be more consistent. That's why people bond. The idea of paying out of cash is great, but it does cause this fluctuation.
But there could be, in 2 years, 3 years from now, you could get a big pipe break that you have to fix, and you may go out and bond something, because you got a major repair job somewhere.
I think anything's possible.
Because we're not replacing enough pipe fast enough, so I think we've gotta take the steps to do 2 miles of pipe. We got 100 miles plus of pipe. Stuff that's 50 years, 75, 100 years old.
And so,
We have to be-
and that question is even at 2 miles a year,
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not even enough.
So if it's not enough, then is there a question of accelerating that, but then we'd have to bond for it? And the increases may be the same, but they'll be more graduated and people.
Is that something you could work out?
These are
with-
gradual as well. It's
The other thing
every
too is-
3 years, maybe about 4 1/3% or something. That's gradual.
Well, yeah, but
The
people
only-
won't remember that it's over, they're gonna just remember another 13%.
Again, the game of financing the district is, if we were to take like you mentioned, to take a bond and then, increase rates, as I mentioned, through that infrastructure surcharge, maybe that's something we can talk about. I don't have the numbers here right in front of you, but I'm thinking, if we end up taking out like a $10 million bond or something, and using that.
And what that would mean, how much would we get done, how fast could we get it done? And yeah, there's interest, but and now we have our bond payments and it's more fixed expense year over year, and not every 2-3 years.
The only thing, under this, again, this infrastructure surcharge, you take out the $10 million bond, you can't really fund your depreciation until that asset is in the ground and depreciating. So, if you took out a $10 million, unless you put in the $10 million worth of infrastructure right off, you couldn't start capturing the depreciation and raise the rates to cover that. I'm not sure, it would take so long to accomplish that and get that program going. That might not be the solution for us.
And you can't put that much pipe in the ground with our people.
No, I mean, we have to hire it, it'd be more of a cost, but again,
That'd be,
we're fighting a deadline here that we can't win at 2 miles a year, and that's creating 13% every 3-year increases to do what's not adequate.
But one thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned, if we don't bond anymore, our bonds are dropping off. As I in 2022, we've got as I mentioned, almost a $270,000 bond dropping off, and others will drop off over time, and that, once those drop off, if we're not replenishing those bonds every time that one drops off, eventually they're all gonna be gone, and we should have enough.
We'll have more cash flow to put.
Yeah, we'll have that
more
money
pipe.
to build more pipe.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the other side
I
of
don't
it.
have an answer to it, but I wonder if, sometimes, I'm just thinking out loud here, it's interesting to put all the pieces up in the air for a minute and see if you would design the solution in a different way, if you wanted to try to make real rapid progress on pipe replacement. I don't know, I'm just putting it out there as a question without any real knowledge of what the alternatives are, but maybe you could kick it around a little bit with Greg and see what if we tried to, what would it be to try to do 5 miles a year? What would it be to try to do 4 miles?
What is the payments on $10 million? It's $90,000 a million.
I couldn't tell you.
Well, that's the kind of thing maybe
So
you
there's-
and Greg
So
could,
there's 900,000 a year thereabouts right now at current rates.
even at 5 miles a year, it's gonna take us a long time, but it's much faster than 1.5.
Well, what I'm saying is, we're now spending $870,000 on pipe replacement. And if a payment on a bond is $900,000, but we'd be able to get so far ahead, it's not even funny. We won't be expending that money in cash, we'll be using it towards interest, I understand that.
It's gonna be
But
a
our
rate increase.
responsibility is to have an infrastructure that works 30 years from now. And if we can't say that 2 miles a year is going to be okay, everything's good, no, just status quo, and we'll be fine 30 years from now, we are responsible to look at other options.
Look at them.
And we need to know if there were a bond as that option, what would a rate increase be, when would it need to be, how,
It wouldn't be
how
much of a rate
projecting
increase
out how much the rate increase would be and how.
It'd be
It would
interesting to
be 50
model
It would be 50%,
How much?
a rate increase of 50% if you took out $10 million on bond issue.
Well, I just told you that
It's
we're
just-
spending $800,000 a year out of capital
Yeah.
for infrastructure, but our bond payments were $900,000 a year.
I'll just-
We're not making the
we can't-
capital expenditures because we're using the bond money to
We
do
have to
that.
identify what projects we would do, and.
Right, no, it
at
wouldn't
this
be, I'm
point,
not saying it's easy.
If we say 3 miles of pipe, it's like 30% rate increase to.
That's because we're doing it out of cash, correct? Whenever you bond something, it's always cheaper, it just costs you longer in the long run, I understand that.
It commits you to a payment structure that you live with it for the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
But.
And I'm not in
I like to
favor of it
avoid
either.
that.
I'm looking at how do we fix this, how do we fix the infrastructure
I'd
in
love to
time?
do 5 miles of pipe, but I would hate to tell somebody what their water bill's gonna be.
Right,
And-
if we would,
And right now Sid needs to know, for developing this budget for next year, what do we think is the best option in front of
Right.
us?
Given-
And I'm suggesting you present stuff with a 2 mile of pipe in your budget for next year. I'd love to do 3, but I'm not prepared to.
Can go to the middle there.
in doing that, we are increasing from 1.5, we used to be doing 1, and then now, Mike, we got us
But my
up
point
to
is-
1.5, and so, that's quite a bit, that's, half again what we were doing. So now we're gonna be doing another half, so,
Be doing double. what
quarter
you
more,
were
I'm
5
sorry,
years
yeah,
ago.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so we are incrementally increasing it as we go, and we're doing it relatively quickly compared to the timeline of the past. So this is good, I think 2 is good, rather,
Well,
we don't wanna make a big leap.
status quo.
Pardon?
What I'm just saying, status quo is a status quo, but I'm just saying our goal.
But it's
is-
not gonna be, it's gonna be more, it's gonna be another half a mile.
Yeah,
And the reason, bringing this forward today, looking at the schedule of when this would take effect, if we were able to agree tonight on one of these scenarios, then next month we would have a much better refined picture of what that really means. And, given the timeline of the advertising and the application and everything, we would be able to make a rate increase on February 1st of 2020.
So you would like us to zero in, maybe not not vote on, but zero in on a mileage rate tonight,
Yeah, if I had that, that would give us some guidance
To
to bring you
model with.
something.
more concrete.
In October, I would hope to get a vote and ratification, based upon the recommendation tonight. We could bring back to you something at the October meeting, kind of laying it out, now here's what it really is, here's the real rate, here's what it's really gonna mean, and that would set the motion.
I hear it, then
Process.
it would seem to me we should vote on what number to ask you to model for the final.
Yeah, you don't need a vote, you need consensus, because you're not voting
Yeah,
to
we're not
approve
voting on
anything.
anything.
All right, then
Other
we
than
don't
you're,
need to vote.
you're pointing them in a direction as to
All
how to
right,
do the math.
then we'll look for consensus.
What would
Another-
help is if I just knew that we'd like to put 2 miles of pipe in the ground, that's kind of the direction.
So are we thinking 2 miles? Is there anybody who would like to, I mean, I recognize that Andy's saying this.
No, I
could
mean,
we
if I
look at
would
something
pick that too, going with the status quo.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that we can't consider other options if that isn't reaching our goal. If 30 years from now, we're gonna have failing pipe, we got all these problems because we didn't act, and even this plan, 3 miles is not gonna do it. Because we're paying out of cash. And it's an inconsistent up and down rate increase problem, it's a public awareness thing, we're gonna have to justify this again. And we have low rates now, right? Basically, in other places.
Relatively, yes, right,
So we
yes.
shouldn't be getting this hammer every 2 years. We do a great job, but every 2 years, we gotta defend ourselves. If we had a capital program that, yeah, it did some bonding, it cost us some money, but we wouldn't have to be every 2 years defending a 13 to 15% increase, or 28%.
And one thing to keep in mind-
It would be more steady, and yeah, there'd be increases, maybe it'd be every other year, but it'd be 2%.
Some people don't like to hear like different spins on analogies, but I always go back, if you look at a water rate increase, I mean, say we had a 16% water rate increase, if we went with that one, it sounds like a lot. Anything raised 16% sounds crazy. I mean, and a lot of people equate increases to their city taxes. You know,
Right.
if your tax rate went up 16%,
You hit those.
hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
That's right.
A 16% rate increase, doing rough math, for a typical home would be about $38 a year for water services.
That's a good way to speak on it.
Yeah.
And you know, back when we did our,
So a 50% increase, as you were just talking about, wouldn't be that much more either.
And percentage-wise, it's a lot.
Percentage-wise,
Dollars for
So
somebody's.
again, it goes back to
but
my.
dollars for somebody's
Right.
home budget is all relative to what money they have.
So I mean, I'd still like.
and people have the ability to conserve water as well. So, I mean, it's.
And that's
you know,
been pushed a lot in the past
If
too.
someone really says, well, you know, they could think in my mind, well, my water bill just went up, maybe I won't wash the car today, or, you know, you have the ability to conserve water if you so choose.
Well, I still like to
You can't
revisit-
conserve your tax
It's on the
rate.
record that I think we should be researching other options, because if our goal is to replace all that pipe that's going bad on us, this is not gonna do it.
I think it's useful to be on the record, and I wonder if this is a case of doing both. That we wanna get a rate increase so that we can do an increased mileage.
If-
And start to look beyond these every couple year, rate increases to a whole new model that might include other ways to look at a more rapid level of infrastructure replacement.
Back in 2016, when we decided to raise the rates
Yeah.
to increase the mileage of pipe, that to me, that really kind of set us on a course. This is the way we kind of want to do it. We want to raise the rates without incurring any more future debt. So that if we do this without issuing a bond, I think that kind of continues what we
Well,
sort of
people,
started
we
back then.
understand it, I understand it.
Yeah.
But the public sees that increase, and now we're asking again for the same reason. Oh, wait a minute, I thought we already raised the rates for that. Now we're raising the rates for the same purpose again. And they're not seeing on the books what we're doing here, whereas with the bond, it's pretty clear. This is what we're doing, paying off a bond. So, I mean, again, I think from
But the
a
bond's still for
transparency, a
infrastructure.
trust issue, and from having this happen all the time, we gotta look at for the future, something different. I'm not gonna stand in the way of this, I'm not gonna be one of those that says, no, I would go for the 2 miles, but I still say,
Well, I wasn't on the
You got-
board in 16, I think I started right after that. I believe I recall there were some fireworks about that whole thing, but,
Well, we had 6 people show up at the public hearing.
yeah,
There
that
was-
doesn't mean there isn't a
Well,
muttering
yeah,
that's
yeah.
going, you know. But, so I think it's
You're right.
worth at least taking a look at what that would look like, but not to hold this up. It, you know,
no, I'm
go
not
ahead with
working,
this.
I'm not an obstructionist, I just, we wish we would compare and see what a plan of bonding would do for our infrastructure
And we can
in
do that.
10 years, compared to this kind of model in 10 years. And see if we're not doing our injustice by
Just to see if
continuing
there's
the
another
status
way
quo.
to approach it, but
Mhm.
not in this time frame because time's running out.
Right, I understand, yeah.
I do think that, at the time that there were the pipes bursting due to the pressure issues, there was, at least in some areas of social media, fair recognition that the pipes are really ancient. And aside from people who had some other different, sort of not related at all questions, there was kind of a ripple of comments saying, well, you know, those pipes are so old, what do you think is gonna happen? Which tells me that there are some people who know about the age of our pipes, which is helpful, you know, that.
Yep.
And one question, do you project the 2 miles being able to keep up with the city city major repaving or mill and fill or reconstruction of roads, or will be able to keep up with the city, okay?
I think so.
Good.
Well,
I'll give ahead of them,
well,
ahead of
I
them.
say that, but it really depends on how much, I mean, next year the city might not fund any road construction, it's hard to say.
Well, that's
But we are committed to working with the city to coordinate projects that go on. I can't say whether we're gonna be ahead of them, behind them, or they might be
They might be
doing all sections of the
They might be
city.
doing some downtown streets
Yeah.
that are more
And
expensive
that
to
goes
work
to the point
on.
where we don't have the time or the money to pick the oldest pipe necessarily. We have that problem where we need to go with them, and then that may not be so we don't have any money left to go after the oldest, because we gotta put that resource towards what the town and city's working on, so that oldest is getting older.
Yeah, and sometimes the city's priority is doing streets down in the south end of Auburn that have no pipes in them at all. I mean, it all depends on
That's right.
the city's priority as well.
It's almost 5:25, I would like to ask one question, not necessarily for tonight, but is there an area where you could tell us the oldest pipes tend to be?
We have a 20-year, I should show you an assessment report that we did when we did the last rate increase, because that outlined our strategy for replacing the pipes moving ahead for 20 years.
Yeah,
There's a comprehensive list of all the areas where we need to get in and replace pipes. I should show, I'll give you a copy of that report.
I mean, there may be other newer trustees who haven't seen that either,
But it's a moving target based on that.
of course.
You know, what's the priority this year, and sometimes.
But just
they
like if
pick.
we know where the most antiquated pipe is, I'm just curious.
When we
where
did that
is it?
report,
Are
New
they
Auburn.
downtown
New
or
Auburn.
are they in New Auburn? Okay,
Is a good part of it.
okay.
Yeah, when we did that report, we prioritized them, and the first 2 that we mentioned as priorities, we've done. It was Minot Avenue, and it was Poland Road, and there's a list there of all the areas we need to
Okay.
get in and
Just
replace.
I haven't seen it, and there probably, I mean, there's several of us who've come on deck
Mhm.
since perhaps that has been reviewed, and so we just don't know. Is there any other business that we need to accomplish tonight?
Oh, I hope not.
Then I'll entertain.
On camera, I'll say
Did you
that.
come to a consensus on this, to give them a number?
Yep.
We did.
2.
Alright.
2 miles, and we agreed with a footnote of recognizing that Counselor Titus would like us to look at other models to really tackle infrastructure.
Well, like I said, I mean, we're dealing right now with a county that swore they'd never bond, and they're not gonna bond because they're gonna pay, well, they found a way that somehow, because of operating expenses, they lost a lot of their surplus money. And now they're gonna buy a new communication system, and instead of doing the right thing, they're gonna finance it through the communication company, which is wrong, should be bonded, but maybe they're gonna turn around and decide there's some things you have to do. Unfortunately, that's the reality. I just don't want us caught in that same mode. We aren't gonna be able to accomplish.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Are we in agreement? All right, and we are 1
So
hour
Sid,
earlier than last
company-
month.
Well, that's good, I have a county